Hey, wellness coaches, welcome back to another live video that we're doing today. Keeping with the theme of January of mindset, setting the right goals. I have got another guest today called Lindsey, and she is joining us to help us have a vision party, like really think about our big dreams, set goals that are actually achievable, make us feel good. So I'm super excited to bring her on. Let me have her come on, and then I will do a quick introduction. In the meantime, if you're watching this live, just go ahead and type live. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and type replay. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to post them. We will bring them up and make sure to get them answered before the call finishes. So, most welcome, Lindsey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the perfect month to, have that momentum moving forward and really set those big, massive, exciting goals. So I'm,
Mm-hmm.
like looking forward to see what you have to share with us and, inspire us to take it in the right direction.
Yes, yes. A lot of people set goals in January, but I also like to remind people that you don't have to wait for a new year to get your goals setting on.
Absolutely. So before we go into this vision party, I thought I would just do a quick introduction of you so that people know who you are and what you do, and then we can take it from there. Cool?
Okay.
So Lindsay is actually an entrepreneur who actually, who has many different business ventures. She founded her business, Lindsey Vertner, and she's really passionate about working as a personal development coach to help women who are really struggling with overwhelm. And she uses her unique perspective and no excuses coaching method to help her clients achieve new heights. She is a really humble person. I've got to know her just over the past month, and she's really humble, and she's a very positive person to be around. Lindsay is devoted to also helping women to create a life full of purpose, balance, and happiness by empowering them to practice self-care while at the same time creating boundaries and prioritizing their goals so that they can avoid burnout and overwhelm, which is exactly what she's here to teach us about, and while doing all of that, also working on healing our limiting beliefs, which can sometimes
Mm-hmm.
get in the way of us achieving, the dreams and desires that we have. So you're most welcome, Lindsay. And I know that you have much more of a backstory. So I would like you to share a little bit about that before we move into this vision party and share why you're so passionate about teaching on this topic of, how to create visions and goals and use this no
Mm-hmm.
excuse method moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back in 2007, I was actually in a fatal car wreck. I was pronounced brain dead on the scene. I was pronounced again brain dead, and because they had to fly me to the hospital, the nearest trauma hospital. Then doctor said I wouldn't make it through the night. I had paralysis. I had a blood transfusion. I had a lot of brain damage that was going on. I was in the hospital for a month. And there were a couple times where they said I wasn't going to make it. And so after I got out of the intensive care hospital, I was moved to a rehab hospital. And that's kind of when I had to decide, like, all right, what do I want for myself? Because I know I didn't want to live the way that, as in a wheelchair, not being able to walk. My focus was different. Like school was easy for me when I was younger, but then after that, it was very hard for me to focus, for me to pay attention. I had memory loss, so I had to relearn how to do things. Like I had to relearn how to write, how to walk, all those kind of things. So fast forward a couple years later, I end up, having children, getting married, all that good stuff. And I found myself being overwhelmed and frustrated. And if you're a mom or if you're an entrepreneur and then you pair those two together, that makes it even worse. But I couldn't figure out, like, why am I so, like, not happy with my life whenever I have everything that I'm supposed to have. And I borderline had a breakdown, and I was like, okay, got to practice self-care, got to figure out what's going on. And I did it for myself, and I started helping other people do that. And I realized that so many women are struggling with this same thing. They're trying to do it all on their own. They're trying to be super mom. They're trying to be superwoman. They feel like, I can't reach out for help, or I got to do everything for everybody. And we put ourselves on the back burners. So it's really just been my passion to free people from that mindset.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And, it's a really powerful story, the kind of journey that you've gone through and how it's impacted you and the reason you're here to do the work that you're doing. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that, everybody in this group is going to get a lot of value from it. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave the floor to you right now. I will be in the comments section. And when you're done, I will come back. And if there's any questions, we can take them and answer them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
great. All right. Please go ahead.
Okay, so we are talking about setting your goals up. A lot of people, they fall into common mistakes when they're setting their goals, and then they get upset because they don't quite reach their goals. They're like, oh, I did everything I was supposed to do, so why haven't I become a millionaire? Or whatever it is that you're working towards. But there are 3 parts to properly setting up a goal and setting yourself up for success. It's 1 part mindset. It is 1 part preparation and 1 part action. A lot of people fall short on that action part. But we will start with mindset. You definitely have to be grateful for the things that you already have in your life. You got to be grateful for the small things. You got to be grateful for the struggles. A lot of times we often forget, like we ignore our struggles. We don't want to deal with them, but you have to be grateful for those because they're probably setting up your character and developing your character so that you can be a better person in the goal that you're trying to achieve, and you can better handle the things that you're trying to manifest in your life and where you're trying to get to. So definitely practice gratitude day in and day out. Anytime you're facing a stressful situation or a negative situation, figure out, okay, what can I learn from this lesson? What is this struggle trying to teach me? Who am I to become out of this struggle? Another thing is sometimes we have trouble seeing ourselves in certain places. So let's say that you have a goal of losing 100 pounds. Weight loss is a common goal. And you are like, oh, I could never see myself that skinny. Well, that's your first mistake. The fact that you don't see yourself that skinny is going to be your first obstacle in achieving that goal. You have to first envision yourself in the things that you desire. That is very, very important. Everything starts in the mind. You have to see it, you have to think it, you have to feel it, and then you start to become it. So, for example, way back when we first bought our house, my husband and I, we were in no business like trying to buy a house. We had to improve our credit. We were still renting, but I would drive around town and look for houses to purchase. If I saw a for sale sign, I would sometimes call the realtor and ask questions about that house, knowing that I had no business and no intentions on buying that house. But I started to put myself in the mind frame that, yes, I am a homeowner. I'm going to buy a house and multiple houses. And eventually we improved our credit, and then we found the perfect starter home. But at first I had to put myself in that mindset. So that's very important that you start to think, see, and feel to become the things that you're trying to achieve. Also, another common mistake, let me know if I'm talking too fast. I want to make sure that I give you lots and lots of tips for setting up your goals. Okay, so you have to make sure that your why is super, super important. Whenever you are writing out your goals, think, why is this so important to me? What am I willing to do to achieve this goal? Right? Because if your why is not important or meaningful enough to you, then you're going to give up. You might do good for the first month, maybe even 2 months, but eventually it's going to fizzle out. Because what happens, life happens, things get tough, especially if we have big goals that we're trying to achieve. Then, a lot of people aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs. That's why so many of us are not entrepreneurs. And that's why even the ones that do start end up failing because they don't have what it takes to keep going when the going gets tough, because everything is not all glamorous and lights, camera, action and sparkles and fun. Like, you are in the grind all the time. So whenever you reach those low moments, whenever you want to give up and when things aren't looking the way you planned or it's not going as fast as you want it to, your why and the meaning and purpose that you have behind your goal is what's going to push you to keep going. It's going to give you that motivation to run another lap. So another thing is your limiting beliefs. A lot of people don't realize the inner limiting beliefs that hold us back from achieving our goals. For example, if we take it back to the weight loss example, if you don't feel like you're good enough to be a certain size, then that's going to hinder you from having a goal of losing 100 pounds, right? So you're going to have to work on your self-confidence and your self-worth and that inner limiting belief of I'm not good enough before you start to work on, well, not before, because you can do it simultaneously, but you will need to work on that just as much as you are in the gym or watching your diet. Don't forget about the mindset part of it. So another thing, you'll want to make sure that you get clear on your wants and your don't wants. A lot of times when we're creating goals, we focus on everything that we want, and we forget about what we don't want. So definitely make sure you write down, okay, what do I don't want out of this goal? So like if it's, you want to eliminate debt, for example. Okay, so I don't want higher credit card bills. I don't want bill collectors calling me. Don't forget to put your feelings into the things that you want and don't want. I don't want to feel like I'm trapped by bills. I don't want to feel like I'm constantly struggling. So again, putting those emotions into the things that you want and don't want is going to help you set your goals up so that you can achieve them more effectively. So you have writing down what you don't want, then writing down what you do want, and then making sure you're putting yourself in that vision. Like I said, see it, think it, feel it, do it, become it. That's so, so important. And then you have to be realistic about your goals. I know a lot of you have probably heard of the SMART acronym, right? You do have to be realistic about your goals. There's some added components to the SMART acronym that a lot of people don't understand, like the mindset, which is what we kind of just talked about. But for example, let's say that you have $100,000 in debt and you want to eliminate that debt so that you can live a life full of freedom, you know, financial freedom and all that good stuff. Realistically, unless you're already making millions and thousands, you're not going to eliminate that in 1 month, right? So you have to be realistic about your goals. If you only bring home $5,000 a month, then you're not going to eliminate $100,000 of debt in 30 days or 60 days. Unless you happen to land on like Oprah's things I like club, right? So be realistic, because setting yourself up like that is going to set you up for failure. If you know that you only make that much a month, then of course you're not going to eliminate that much debt in a span of 30 or 60 days. So you have to be realistic about the goals. Now, yes, it's important to push yourself and try to reach for further things that maybe you normally, get out of your comfort zone. However, still be realistic. Okay. So if you only bring home $5,000 a month, then maybe a more realistic goal, if you take into account all of your expenses and all of your bills, a more realistic goal could be something like, I'm going to eliminate 2,000 in the next 30 days or 2,000 in the next 60 days. Right? So be realistic about your goals. And then another key factor is that you have to identify your starting point and your ending point. So if you don't know where you started, then how can you tell how far you've came, right? So that's why you have to identify where you are now and be honest with yourself, because you're only going to hurt yourself if you aren't. Still good. I can't do anything. So, okay, now I see Rupi's face. Are we still good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you must have just made me big or something. All right. I will keep going. So I was saying you have to identify your starting point and your ending point, because if you don't know where you are currently, then you cannot tell how far you've came, because a lot of times we see it every day, so we don't notice the change. And then, like, let's say you're growing your hair out and you're like, oh my gosh, my hair is not growing. It's growing so slow and I just can't get it to where I want it to be. But then somebody that hasn't seen you in 3 months comes up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, your hair has really grown. And you're like, really? And then you take a picture from where you started and the right now picture, and then you see like, oh, it really has. So that's why it's important to know your starting point so that you can tell how far you've come. But at the same lines, you have to know where you're going. So you have to have an endpoint to your goals, right? So that way you're not like wandering all over the place, because if you don't know exactly what you're trying to get to, then how can you tell when you've made it? So for example, a good goal would be like, if we go back to the debt goal, I am going to eliminate $2,000 of debt in the next 30 days. And the next 30 days would be February 28th, 2019, which is not really, I just threw that date out there. But you know, you're starting today, you're ending on February 28th, and you have $2,000 that you have to get rid of by then. So that kind of leads right into the point where you want to be specific and you want to be super clear on your goals. Clarity is key. So if we take that same debt situation even further, I'm going to eliminate 30% of my debt, which equals $2,562.33 by February 28th. The more clear you are, then you increase your chances of achieving that goal, because confusion only breeds more confusion. So if you aren't sure what it is that you want, whether it's debt or weight loss or your business or anything that you're trying to work for, then no one else knows what you want. So for example, let's say that I was going to send you to the store to get me some bread, and you go to the store and you're like looking at the bread aisle. The bread aisle where I live has bread from this end to that end, from the bottom to the top. There are like 50 million different types of bread. So you grab some bread and you bring it back to me because I didn't tell you what I wanted. And I'm like, oh, thanks for the bread. It's not quite what I want, but I guess it's okay. I didn't tell you what I wanted exactly, so you didn't know what to give me exactly, right? Because when we make our mind up to do something, the universe, God, the world, everything is going to conspire to make that thing happen, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So that's why it's important to be super clear and super specific on what you want out of your life and what you don't want out of your life. So then, taking that bread example, let's say I'm like, all right, I need you to go get me some Blue Bunny bread. It costs $2.38. And if you walk about to the middle of the aisle, and you're a little shorter than me, it's eye level for me, so you might have to look up a little bit. It should be right there. The packaging is orange and red. You're going to go to the store. You're going to walk halfway down the aisle. You're going to look up a little bit because you're shorter than me. You're going to see, okay, there's all kinds of Blue Bunny breads, but she said it's orange and red. Only these two are orange and red, except this one is $5 and this one is $2 and some change. You're going to grab that bread. You're going to bring it back. And I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It is just what I wanted. And you're going to feel good. Like, I told you exactly what I wanted and you delivered me exactly what I wanted. So the same thing goes for your goals. You have to know exactly what you want so that you can manifest that into your life. And another thing, write it down. So not only do we have to see it and think it, but we need to write it down. There's a psychological click that goes on whenever you take something from your brain and commit it to paper, on concrete paper. So make sure you do that. Post it everywhere, all kinds of places. post it on your phone, put it in your car. Just always be constantly reminded of the goals that you're trying to achieve. And then let's say you have a larger goal. You want to make sure that you break it down into chunks, because whenever we see the whole big goal, it's easy to get overwhelmed and not do anything, right? So we don't start, or maybe we get started and we look at how far we have to go and we get discouraged and we're like, oh, I'm just going to give up. And you slowly ease back into your old patterns. So break your larger goals down into smaller chunks. Like, for example, if we went back to the debt example, and if you have $100,000 of debt that you're trying to get rid of, break that down in half. So now it's at 50,000. Break that down into 25,000. Break it down into more bite-sized chunks. I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, like, what's the best way to eat an elephant? Have you ever heard that before? The elephant is huge, but you eat an elephant one bite at a time. You don't try and go in and eat the whole leg or the whole ear or the whole trunk. You eat it one bite at a time. Now, I don't eat elephants, but the principle is still the same. Just one bite at a time, one piece at a time. So breaking your larger goal down into smaller chunks and then working on those chunks. And you want to make sure that you develop action steps for each of those chunks. So if we go back to $2,000 and whatever number we said earlier by February 28th, then okay, over this next week, I'm going to pay at least $100 towards that. Over the next week, I'm going to pay $365. To lose healthy. There are other ways that you can be physical and stay healthy apart from running. So if you hate, I don't know, running on the treadmill, or if you hate, what's a common exercise that people do? We'll just stick with running. Don't go running if you don't like running. Do something that's more enjoyable for you. For example, I hate working out, but if it's disguised as dancing, then I love it. Now, I could dance all night, and I'm keeping physical, keeping healthy. That's a fun way for me to do something that is necessary, but I don't necessarily like. So figure out ways to make your goal more fun and more enjoyable for you. And then focus. A lot of times, especially if you're making an actual vision board, then focus. Sometimes people put too many pictures on their vision board. Like, you want to make sure that one, everything kind of is cohesive all together. Now, if you have one goal that's for debt and another goal for fitness, then of course, those are not quite the same, but you can still make it cohesive all together. And you don't want too many pictures if you're creating a vision board, because that can just start to lose focus. Remember, clarity is key, and also focusing in, because when you have too much to focus on, then your brain is like, where do I go? Where do I start? So make sure you have a clear, kind of zoned in focus on the goals. And you want to make sure that you're not trying to achieve too many goals at once. Like, yes, it's important to push yourself and strive for all the things that you want out of life, but you want to make sure that you're only focusing on, I would say, no more than 5. Usually 3 is a good one, because once you knock out one, then you can move on to something else on your goal list. But try not to focus on more than 5 goals at one time, because that's a lot to split your energy between. So those are some of the main things whenever you're setting up your goal that you really want to pay attention to. Of course, focusing on your mindset, making sure that you heal any limiting beliefs that are going to stop you from achieving that goals, like those, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, anything like that. So Make sure you focus on those. Make sure you find the purpose and meaning behind your goals. Don't forget to be grateful for the good and the bad. There's a lesson in everything. I always like to say, turn your losses into lessons. Celebrate the small wins. That can help keep us with momentum and motivation whenever things are going slow as well. Sometimes we want to have this big celebration whenever we reach our goal, but don't forget to celebrate the small things that happen. Like going back to the debt example, you paid off $100. Yes, I paid off $100. That is awesome. And then you pay off 300. Yes, I paid off 300. I'm that much closer to my goal. Don't wait all the way until 2,000 or 100,000 to start celebrating, because those small celebrations are going to help you keep going whenever it gets hard. So get clear on your don'ts and your don't wants and your wants. Put yourself in your vision. Remember to see it, think it, feel it, do it, and become it. Be realistic about your goals. Make sure you identify your starting and your ending point so that you know where you're going. Think of your goal as a runner's race, a marathon, a finish line. You have your finish line and your starting, or I switched those. You have your starting line and your finish line. Figure those out. And you can even put checkpoints in the middle, just like in real marathons. Make sure that you are super clear and specific on what it is that you want for your goal. Make sure you write it down and then take action. A lot of times people set up their goals, but then they don't do anything. That's like you see the FedEx truck coming and you're like, oh, they're going to drop me off a package. Not if you didn't order anything. So taking action would be placing an order online for FedEx to have to deliver a package to you. Sometimes we do that with our goals. We'll set them up, but then we don't do anything. You have to take action towards your goals to get that package delivered to you, right? And then focus, focus, focus. So those are a few steps, some key crucial things that you want to focus on when you're setting up your goals. And remember, don't rush it. Because this is your life. These are your dreams that you're trying to achieve. So don't be like, oh, let me just hurry up and write down 5 goals. Like this is not an assignment that has a deadline. Take your time, really think about what it is that you want to achieve, that you want for your life, your purpose, your passion, what's going to keep you going. Think about those things and you'll be in that 8%. So 92% of all goals and New Year's resolutions fail. That's because 1, people don't set them up correctly, and then 2, people don't want to put in the work. So remember, you have preparation, you have mindset, and you have action. Those are the 3 main components, and we just knocked some of those out and talked about a whole bunch of ways where you can, work on some of those components so that you can be in that 8% and successfully achieve your goals. And that is it. If you guys have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsey. This was a really powerful lesson.
Yeah, this is normally a 1-hour workshop for me. So I was like, okay, how can I get the most juice in a power half hour?
Absolutely. Can you hear my echo again?
Barely, just a little bit. Nothing too bothersome.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you covered the overview and the summary, because this can be quite annoying with my echo. Awesome. So, guys, Lindsey has created an amazing free gift for us to take this further. And I am going to post that in the comments. Sorry, I can keep hearing myself. So I will post that in the comments. And you can access it and learn more about this. So thank you so much for coming on, Lindsey.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy. It's a daily brain detox. And what it does is it helps you to prioritize your day and while breaking down your goals. So you're going to declutter your brain and declutter your thoughts, prioritize your day while simultaneously working towards your goals. So you get a little bit of organization and goal setting at the same time. Or working towards your goals, actually.
Yeah. And the people who've been watching this have been loving it. They've left some amazing comments down below. They said, loving these clear instructions on how to make my goals. Great topic, set your intentions and write it down. So I think I found some value from it. And it'll be available for another week on the group. So make sure to check it out and enjoy.
Yeah, and I'll come back and answer any questions. I can't see the comments right now, but
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great 2019 and
You as well.
same for everyone. Yeah. Take care.